To our Washington area February CAG meeting. Francisco, if you want to translate.
Y bienvenidos a todos. Espero que todo el mundo no haya sufrido mucho con las temperaturas tan bajas que hemos aguantado en estos últimos días. Yo sé que el clima se va a poner un poco más cálido. No soy meteorólogo, pero sí sé que, yo sé que estos días han sido un poco difíciles, pero ahora viene clima un poco más confortable. Así que bienvenidos a todos. Ahora vamos a hacer un anuncio sobre la interpretación. Por favor, pulsen el icono del globo para la interpretación y seleccionen el idioma de su preferencia. Es importante que todos lo hagan.
Perfect. So what Francisco just shared was for interpretation, please connect using a tablet or computer. We did this backwards today. So in the bottom right-hand screen, you will see a globe icon. You will need to select the language of your choice, of your preference. And if you do prefer English, please be sure to select English with the globe. And so I'll take a moment for everyone to have the ability to do that momentarily. Great. Okay, Beth, next slide, please. So as always, we are fortunate and blessed, I will say, that we have this amazing facilitator who joins us at all of our CAG meetings, Catherine Archuleta, and she's going to be facilitating our meeting once again this evening. So Catherine, take it away.
Thank you, Anthony, and welcome to everybody. I'm so glad to see all of you, and there's some new faces, so we're really, really glad that you could join us tonight. And we listened to you loud and clear at our last meeting about some things that you wanted to change about the meetings. We're starting a little bit later at 6 o'clock. We're going for a little bit longer than an hour. We'll be going till 7:30. And also we heard you loud and clear that you want to do fewer topics with more time for discussion between the city's folks and the community representatives. And so we're going to do that today, as you can see on the agenda on the screen. We're going to just talk about two projects, the 48th Avenue outfall and then the Globeville levee. We'll spend a little bit more time, I think, on the Globeville levee, but we want to leave time for both of them. So just by way of process, we're going to go through both presentations and stop at each slide. So we're going to offer opportunity for you to talk and ask questions, make comments after each slide. So feel free. If you'd like to join in on the chat, please do so, because we monitor those very carefully. And to be sure that we're catching all the comments. And as you know, we save the chat information so that we can go back and review it even after the meeting is completed. The way for you to let me know that you would like to speak or make a comment is to raise your hand using the reactions button at the bottom of your screen. I'll be sure to catch it that way, or Anthony will help me catch it. But if I don't see you and you've had that hand up for a long time, just butt right in and say, okay, Catherine, I need to talk. So please don't hesitate. So we're going to start first with the 48th Avenue outfall, and Lauren is going to be our presenter. And Lauren, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Lauren Winnan. I am the project manager with the city for this project. Right here, you can see the overall project view. It extends from the South Platte River all the way to Lincoln Street. And it's a new storm sewer system along 48th that'll help relieve some flooding in this area. Right now, we have funding for the portion from the South Platte River to Washington Street. You can see that that's kind of called out in our next slide. I'll show a more detailed version of that. So we're looking at the big picture right now up until about 60%, and then we'll focus in on that smaller area. Do you want to go to the next slide, or should we take questions?
Let's take some questions. I want to be sure that the community representatives have a good understanding of the sort of the geographic area we slid from the red outlined spot to all the way down to 48th. And I just want to be sure that just as sort of the geographic area of the outfall is understood by everybody. Any questions you might have? Anybody? Just take a moment here.
We do show, I guess I can keep talking while people are thinking. We do show on this a few crossings of the railroad. Right now, those are just in conceptual design, but we have heard in the past that a priority from this community is those connections between the new greenway that'll be between Washington and the river, Argo Park, and platform open space. So we do at a conceptual level show those railroad pedestrian crossings here.
I don't see any hands up. No one waving at me. Anthony, do you see anybody? Nope. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide. Thanks, Lauren.
Yeah. So this is that area that was in the red dotted outline from the previous slide. It's just a blow up. And what you see is the future Betty Cram Drive Bridge to National Western. Blanking on the name of it there, to National Western. And this will be a bridge and then a bridge landing onto 48th that'll eventually tie in with the existing level of the ground at about Clarkson. And then this alignment of 48th is a little bit further north than it is currently. You'll see it ties in with where Elgin is. And then south of the future 48th is a greenway. We'll have a storm sewer culvert underneath the ground. You can see that in the shaded. Yeah, it's like shaded underneath. So there will be some capacity under the ground, and then there will be a greenway with, during high flows, that would be full of water, but a lot of times there won't be a whole lot of flow in here. And then some park space, a connection to the South Platte River Trail, which will be great. Yeah. And so
can you show those? Can you show where those areas are just with the pointer? Beth?
Yeah. So
can you see this? I don't think you can see my pointer. Yeah.
No, this gray, this kind of shaded gray underneath there is the idea that that's where the pipe portion of this will go, and it will go all the way to this new outfall into the river, which is a lot of the things that many of you talked about in the stormwater study. So this is the implementation of that idea. So, and then on top of that, though, we get this lovely greenway element that has a bike and pedestrian trail that could meander through it and sort of come in here at a space near the tide to the South Platte River Trail up here, but also sort of a open greenway type of area there before that.
Yeah. Beth, I think I remember that we had maybe a couple of months ago a presentation on the options of this, right? And we discussed it, Lauren, with the community about their preference. And I think this reflects much of the preference that we heard, having it on this side and greenway space. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep, exactly. So where we're at in design is we just finished up the alternatives analysis. So we went through a few different options, and this is the selected option. So this is what we're starting to move forward with. And we are approaching about 30% design in April or so. And so, this is the path forward from here on out.
So this geographical area is what the community supported. So thanks to everybody in this CAG meeting who offered their opinions a few months ago about this and enabled the designers to go forward with this process. So we're at 30% design, and Lauren, that's why this.
Yeah, we're working our way towards 30%. We're 30% in April, and actually, we're thinking that April CAG meeting around that time we'll do a broader public meeting for this specific project, maybe on that same evening, or exact date and time and location is to be determined, but that's the plan so far. So we'll present what that 30% design will look like, and that'll include we'll have an actual plan set by that time and just a little more detail to look at.
So a couple of things, Lauren, what sort of comments and just sort of insights would be helpful from the community tonight? And then also we have a question from AE. Hi, AE, glad to see you here. She would like to know where the Sheep Bridge is being restored as part of the NUCO project across the river, 48th or 50th.
I'm not sure on that one, the Sheep Bridge. That might be.
Yeah, 50th. That I think is further north from this location. So north of where Betty Cram Bridge will go in, and but south of 51st. So kind of
between
the two. Yeah. And I don't have any more information on that Sheep Bridge restoration at the moment, but that's certainly something that Anthony and I can follow up with NUCO on if we need to kind of get an update on where that's at.
Yeah. And as far as feedback we're looking for, just any likes, dislikes, priorities you would like to see moving forward, concerns with this specific layout or questions. We're still very much at a conceptual level. So a lot of the details, like exactly what that trail looks like, a lot of that's not finalized yet. So if you have concerns or things you'd like to see now.
Yeah, if you have ideas to what you'd like to see along, that would be great. Anything from our community partners?
Hey, Catherine, real quick. Lauren, if you could put your email in the chat, that would be helpful. And then the community members who are here tonight, and then also our CAG distribution list, which includes other community members, they will receive this presentation, and we'll make sure that we note that if they have specific questions or ideas, that they should reach out to you directly.
Yes, please do.
Lauren, I'm just going to go back 1 second to that slide. And I just wanted to let folks know, so that piece you were just looking at is this one over here, right?
Yeah.
What Lauren was saying is that we're going to start looking at the rest of this, right? Which is quite a long, so it hasn't been designed yet at all. And so this is just the idea. And so as we get started in that, we're going to be coming to you guys. I just wanted to let them know that we will be looking to have some stakeholder discussions, maybe more design type workshops around, what happens as it makes its way through the park. How do we design the street to be a better amenity? Some of those ideas that you guys had in the stormwater study, but now they're going to come to life. So we'll definitely be back.
Yeah, I guess I can clarify that we are taking this entire portion to 60%. So that 30% design I'm talking about in April, that'll include this section along Argo Park. That'll include the whole project. It's just taking it from 60% to final design is this red dot.
Lauren, can you talk a little bit about when you're going to come to the community for their input on that part of it, just so that they can anticipate?
We hope to in the end of April, around the time when the CAG meeting is at the end of April, maybe even that day or something around then. And we're hoping to maybe, if the weather's nice enough, maybe we'll have something in the park. But more detail, we'll send out more details once we have that planned.
Jessica, Joe, Mark, Angela, Barbara, Kyle, any questions, comments on this part of it? You all are quiet tonight. Oh, Ken. Ken's asking, is there a way to have the trail run straight across Washington instead of jogging north? Might make a little easier for bikes to get across Washington.
Rather than, so like closer to
at
this 10-foot. So further south, you're saying closer to this 10-foot, where this 10-foot trail is shown versus Elgin?
Yeah, he says exactly.
Yeah, I think we can look into that. I think that'll depend just on my area of expertise is the storm sewer system, and I'm not as much up on the PED traffic parts. So our traffic group and the traffic engineers will have to decide if that crossing down here would be something that is okay. But I would think that they probably need to have it closer to
Yeah,
48th just for safety purposes.
Yeah, I think that this connection with this trail, this signalization or not of this intersection and this crossing as well as this trail is all the next thing up, is to figure out where does that tie in best.
Yeah.
How do we make that work?
Good
We
point.
can,
Thanks,
yeah,
Dan.
and this is not necessarily going to be a signal. That's kind of still up,
Not determined.
yeah, to be determined. But yeah, it does, you're right, it does kind of, you do have to go north and then back down south. We'll look into that.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. Were those the only two slides you had, Lauren?
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna jump into one of my favorites, the Gloveville levy at Ringsby Court. I'm always interested in the new news around this one, so I hope you can join me. Oops, correction, AE, Sheep Bridge is not being restored. It's being preserved. It's an interpretive artifact. Thanks, AE, thanks for looking that up. Where the sheep crossed. Okay, Kelly. You want to
Thank
take
you,
over?
Catherine. Yep. Thank you all for joining. My name is Kelly Crum. As Catherine said, I'm the city project manager for phases 2 and 3 of the Gloveville Levee Improvements Project. As a reminder, and for those, we can go to the next slide too, there we go. As a reminder, and for those who are new here, the Gloveville Levee project was identified as a key project to reduce flood risk in the Gloveville, Utah Junction stormwater basin. The Gloveville stormwater system study completed in 2019 identified that the height of the existing levee located along the west side of the South Platte River, as shown on the map, next to and at times beneath the existing trail that's there, is approximately 2 feet lower than what is required by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. The study also identified a location just south of 38th Street on the west bank of the river where the flood will spill into Gloveville during a 100-year storm event. The study evaluated options and provided this project as a recommended solution for reducing the risk of river flooding, and most importantly, to avoid floodplain redesignation from this spill. So the project is split up into 3 phases as shown on the map. Phase 1, shown in red, is actually under construction as part of the Heron Pond Carpio Sanguinetti construction project. And phase 2, shown in green on the map, extends from phase 1 at 50th Avenue down south to 38th Street. And this portion of the project is mostly raising the existing levee, which is an earthen berm or at times a wall, up to approximately around 2 feet. And then phase 3, there is no existing levee in this location. And so we're here today to talk mostly about this phase 3, which runs right along Ringsby Court. We're here to present some ideas for what phase 3 could look like and some potential amenities that may be included in this phase. But I just want everyone to keep in mind that the ultimate goal of this project is flood protection. So the addition of any amenities will be dependent upon budget.
So Kelly, just to stop a little bit and
Sure.
make sure, and everyone, as we go in towards phase 3, are there any questions that the community has around 1 or 2? The first or second phase? I just want to be sure that we're not presuming that you know what's been included in the first 2 phases. I know we've talked about the levy before, so you may be up to date, but if you do have questions, just put them in the chat as well.
Yep, and you can always reach out to me as well.
Okay. I don't see any hands raised, so Kelly, please go ahead.
Great, so I'm going to turn it over to, I think Cody is going to talk to this.
Yep. Thanks, Kelly. Cody Porter. I'm with Wilson and Company. I'm the project manager on the design team for the levee project. And like Kelly said, we're going to kind of focus in on the Ringsby Court phase 3 region of the levee here. And so what you see on the screen now is at 38th and Ringsby Court. To try to orient you, north is actually down, so a little hard to think about, but we're looking south towards along Ringsby Court. And yeah, that cursor that Beth is doing is 38th where it goes across the river. Just a couple of things to note here. This is the existing conditions. Many of you are aware that there's fair amount of redevelopment happening along Ringsby Court in the taxi area there, and that's going to continue to our understanding. And then just to point out, there's no, along Ringsby Court, there's no trail or sidewalk on the river side of that whole reach. And so, and then in addition to that, on the south end, or it's the north side, but the bottom of the page on the left photo, there's a bit of a social trail that is formed along there that kind of leads up to the regional trail north of here and the pedestrian bridge across the river. So I guess maybe pause here, make sure everybody's oriented, right?
Any questions so far?
While you're thinking, the image on the right is kind of a picture from standing pretty much on the bridge, looking out over that triangular shape on the river side of Ringsby Court, just to give you an idea of what's there now.
Looks like
After
we're
this-
okay. We're okay to go ahead.
Okay. So we're going to do basically a very similar look here to kind of talk about some of the amenities that we're considering, including with the project. Like Kelly said, first and foremost, this is, really focused on the flood control aspect of the project. So that kind of takes priority. But just to share some of the ideas that we're looking at feasibility wise from just technically, as well as the budget and the cost of these improvements. So again, very similar image than what we saw on the previous slide on the left with this oblique imagery. What you'll notice is we are now trying to bring a sidewalk up along Ringsby to meet 38th Street on the south, as well as formalize that I'll say social trail connection on the north side of Ringsby. This is pretty great, right? So the other piece of this is we're looking at an underpass trail system or connection through here under the bridge. There's some pretty hefty complications with this involving some pretty large, expensive walls and things. And so we're looking at that, as well as of course, the hydraulic impact to the river as part of that as well. But, in general, really both of those things, the sidewalk connections up to 38th and Ringsby, as well as the trail connection underneath, really it's looking at ways to improve the connectivity through the area and really have a better pedestrian friendly area around 38th and Ringsby. Some of the images on the right there, this is some ideas and concepts that we're looking at from kind of, this is essentially a gateway to Ringsby. And Beth will kind of get into some more of this stuff too here in a minute, but, we're looking at what sort of elements can we incorporate to make it, have more of a gateway and an entry point into the area. And then, yeah, Beth, I don't know if you want to just jump in there.
Yeah, sure, Cody. Yeah, so that all of that Cody just described to you kind of leaves us with this kind of gateway park here. It's a not a park, but a space that we can use to create a sense of arrival into this area. And so these are some pictures. Sometimes these are just ideas of maybe it's just earth and mounds, maybe it's grasses, maybe there's some modest seating. Sorry, let's go back. Maybe there's an opportunity here to work with Globeville and Rhino in terms of an art installation. These are just ideas, but we'd love to hear a little bit from you as to what your thoughts are on this idea, and you know, and what do you think of this space, or what would say arrival to you? Catherine, this is a good point for us.
Yeah, I think it's, I was just trying to check the chat. You
Yeah.
can use the chat as well, but any ideas, comments about how this is being envisioned right now? This is really a great opportunity to talk about the type of landscape, and also perhaps even there's a suggestion there for art or pedestrian rest stops.
Catherine, Angela has her hand up.
Oh,
As does
hi, Angela.
Hi, you knew I would have my hand up eventually. Catherine and
Of
Angie.
course. Come on.
I think for me, my greatest fear just along there, like when, I'm sorry, I can't remember the gentleman's name, said he took a picture. I'm like, that's scary, because I've had to walk along there when I'm like, I don't want to wait for the bus anymore. I'm just going to walk. And it's just really scary just to walk along there with all the traffic from Washington zooming by. So I'm just wondering what the safety precautions would be for pedestrians to walk along there. I also used to get off there when the 48 used to go by and turn, and it was the same thing. It was just very scary just to be able to walk there. So if people are going to walk there, if you want people to walk there as a park, there needs to be intense safety precautions put up there. That's all I got to say so far. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela.
Yeah. Thanks, Angela. I think that is one of the reasons why they're considering this underpass, is that it does provide an opportunity to connect from other places through this area and along without having to cross at Ringsby and Washington or 38th there. But yeah, you're right. This is all kind of highlighted as needing much stronger pedestrian environment the whole way along this piece of this road, for sure. Not part of the levy project, but definitely part of the overall connectivity improvements for the area.
Any other comments about this particular area? I know we have some other spots we want to take a look at with you, but.
Yeah, Catherine Maria has her hand up.
Maria.
Bueno, yo quiero decir un poquito sobre la Ringsby. Esa calle, como ven, está Taxi. Taxi tiene bastantes edificios. Tiene tanto edificios, oficinas como habitacional. Y esa calle, por lo regular, está muy, muy peligrosa para la salida hacia el lado norte. No tiene ninguna protección el río a la orilla. Si uno sale de Taxi para el lado norte, tiene que tener uno mucho cuidado porque la visibilidad tampoco es buena para mirar si viene carro de sur a norte. Entonces, yo creo que también deben de considerar eso, debido a que ese espacio queda muy cerca de la BOA, el primer edificio de Taxi. Deben de considerar no solamente el espacio sino toda la Ringsby que quede protegida del lado del río, porque es tanto peligroso para los peatones como para los carros que salen ahí. Y realmente es muy peligroso. Yo ya he estado a punto de chocar 2 o 3 veces porque no hay visibilidad y no hay protección. Realmente a mí me da miedo salir con el río al frente. Entonces, yo creo que esa es otra consideración que podrían tomar, si es posible. Gracias.
Maria, could you talk a little bit more about what you think is dangerous? I know you've talked about auto safety and pedestrian safety. Are there any other safety issues that you'd like to point out? And Angela, I think you raised similar issues. Can you be a little bit more specific? I think it would be helpful for the planners and designers.
Sí, para los peatones no hay banqueta, no hay un espacio por el que puedan caminar. Y para los carros, la falta de protección con el río, de que si sale uno de taxi hacia el lado norte, es peligroso para poder dar la vuelta al lado norte. Entonces, peligraría, si supongamos que hubiera peatones ahí, peligrarían los peatones y peligraría la persona que va manejando. ¿Por qué? Porque los peatones no tendrían espacio a donde hacerse si un carro se llega a ir. Es demasiado angosta la calle, es demasiado pequeña para dar vuelta y para caminar. No sé si me explico. A lo mejor necesitarían ir a mirar, caminar un poquito o salir en su carro de taxi para poder mirar eso.
Cody, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I'd say I totally agree with you. I've been over there. It is very narrow and the river is right off the edge, it feels like. And so I think if you haven't seen some of these other concepts that we're looking at here, we'll kind of cover them in a couple of slides, but totally agree. You know, it's a little bit tight. I don't know really what kind of opportunity there are to make improvements to the road itself. But we are, and we'll get into this, but we are looking at that pedestrian access and connectivity on the river side of Ringsby and providing an amenity there that's safe, both, you know, separate. I don't know, maybe it's best if we just get into that on the next couple of slides.
So, and then Anthony, just to note that Maria did make a suggestion of maybe at some point having a walking tour of that area to see not only where the concerns are, but also the improvements to date. So I'll just hand it over to Anthony so that we can keep track of that. Is that okay, Maria?
Got it.
Angela, would that also, the two of
Creo
you
que
read?
sí, creo que
Okay.
sería mejor si fueran a mirar. Sería más fácil de poder planear o de poder mirar qué es lo que estoy diciendo. Gracias.
I'll
Gracias,
just wait
Maria.
to see the rest of it. I'll just wait to see the rest of it, Catherine.
Okay, thanks, Angela. Okay.
Okay. All right, let's move forward from that spot. Okay. Okay, so this is what she was talking about. So here's another great view of this, right? So here's the road. This was the spot we were just talking about. And here's the road. And I have the same concern. I always think I might land in the river. I don't know, in my car. So just very narrow and no guard and just kind of straight roll down to the river. So that's the existing street. And so as we look at adding the levee, we've looked at what can we do to this street. And like she was saying, Maria was saying, it's very narrow, so it's tricky. But in this segment, and Cody, feel free to jump in. This is all lay terms, okay? But in this segment of the levee is actually a wall. So it's not a big earthen mound, it's a wall. And so what we've looked at doing is pushing that wall out a little bit further into the edge of the river to get ourselves some more space on Ringsby. And if we can do that, which Cody says we can, We can buy ourselves a little more room. So we still have two 11-foot travel lanes for cars, but we also have enough space to get a 10-foot walkway for pedestrians. And what is showing here, which I think, and I'm curious to get your feedback, is that we would have this railing here of some sort of feature that separates the pedestrians from the cars, as well as a little step out zone of 3 feet, so that the pedestrians are elevated about 18 inches high at the walkway. So an elevated walkway with a separation and maybe a little barrier from the cars. So I'd be curious to hear what you guys' thoughts are, recognizing that it's still narrow, but we get a little more space to work with.
Comments?
Hi, this is Angela. That makes better sense. That makes me feel better. I guess still for me, my greatest worry is just closer up towards Washington. Because that's just scary. And it's just, I haven't walked it on more than one occasion in my life. It's just a scary process, and I agree with, if we could have another walking tour, like the last walking tour we had was good. It was really hot that day. But I don't think there was really enough community people to actually see what you all were showing us. So maybe when the weather gets better, there could be another walking tour on the opposite side to show us what it is that you're talking about. And we could better show you what our concerns are, I think, as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. AE had a question, Beth, about how the snow and ice is cleared on raised walkways.
Yeah, that's a good question, AE. I don't know, Kelly, if we have gotten that far into the implementation of this design to think through how we would do that yet.
We have not gotten that far, but we will definitely have conversations over that.
Yeah.
And then Rob had a question about whether the travel lanes could be 10 feet to allow for more pedestrian space.
I think initially that was looked at, but this is also the only road traveling through this area, and there is truck movement and RTD bus movement through here. And so kind of giving ourselves that extra space to accommodate those vehicles and the mirrors. So we want to keep enough space that those mirrors aren't wiping someone out on the walkway. So I think this is basically where the traffic engineers have landed, that it gives them the room to maneuver those vehicles.
You get a sense of it with that car that's even in this example, is the mirror hangs over the brick inlay there. Just as example of what you were talking about, Beth.
Mm-hmm. So that's currently, I mean, it's certainly, this is, I think Kelly was saying in the beginning, this is the idea. We're at the idea stage, and these are all ideas for improvements that the team is looking at that could work, right? So that's where we are. And hopefully moving this forward into some preliminary design. So we're by no means complete or saying this is absolutely has to be like this. So this is a very tricky one to figure out. So
yeah. So the suggestion has been to do a little bit of a tour there. Is that going to be timely as you're moving forward on design? Obviously, there's always a timeline that has to be met by the designers and planners. I'm just wondering, is a later spring walking tour with the community timely in that process?
Cody, where does that fall with the design schedule?
Yeah, really, I think that can probably be worked out. Phase 2 is really the one that is under the more stringent time requirements right now. So this, I think, waiting until obviously nicer weather to do another site walk would make some pretty good sense there.
So Kelly, you had mentioned possibly coming back to and Rob, I saw your hand up, so we'll get to you momentarily. But Kelly, you had mentioned possibly coming back to the community at the end of April with possible 30% design. If would much change between now and April would be my first question, or then does it make sense to have the walking tour in May, June, and then come back to the community with their input with 30% design?
I think it would make sense to maybe have the walking tour first. So
Okay.
maybe we look at, beginning of May, end of April, I guess, depending on how the weather is looking. As Cody said, phase 2 schedule is a lot more critical right now. So we have some time.
Thanks, Kelly. Rob,
Yes, thank you.
did you have your hand up, Rob?
I think
You
he
may
put
be on mute,
comments in
Rob.
the, yeah, or he put
You-
comments in the
Oh,
chat.
you-
There
there
he
we
goes.
go. Can
There you
can
go.
you hear me now?
Yep.
In regards to the travel lane width, so that vehicle in that picture is really, really deceptive. No sedan is 11 feet wide.
Right.
A Ford F-150 is 7 feet wide. And 12 feet is like highway standard width. And RTD, I know, has said their minimum is 10. And just to be clear, like as we narrow lanes, we also calm traffic, and there are residences back there and people are going to be walking near it. So I really think that would be important to keep that as narrow as possible.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. I think I mean, we can certainly go back and look at it. I mean, there's nothing at this point that says we can't. And I think we could explore that and see if we could get buy off on that. And it may be that we have to adjust the walkway a bit, or, it's a 2-foot pan there instead of 3. So there's some room there to look at it. Yeah. Okay.
Great.
I don't know, Rob. Some of the cars I've seen on the highway look that wide.
Well,
When
yeah,
I'm-
but
When I'm trying to
I
pass them.
feel that way.
yeah.
Yeah, thanks,
I-
Rob. Good comments.
Okay, great. So it sounds like between the levy and also the 48th stormwater work, we may have some outdoor events in late April. Hopefully we get good weather, because I think timing wise, both this one and maybe a meeting in Argo Park where we're talking about how that's laying out would both be timely. So,
Good idea.
okay. All right, we'll see how it goes. All right. Should we move on? Cody, are we good with?
I think we're good. Yeah.
All right, so let's just talk a little bit. Now, these are just pictures, okay? And none of these are selected. We're not that far along in the design to choose a railing yet, but we thought it might be kind of fun to share some options and just understand that, as we look at this design, there is a limitation. We have to have the wall. The wall is the flood protection. So the wall has to be there, but we have some options to look at different railing types, possibly to look at some lighting types, things that might enhance this area for pedestrians. And so thought we'd just take a moment. You can see some pictures, get a sense. Some of them are simple and clean. Some are more industrial. Some are more innovative, maybe more artistic, kind of, maybe this up here has got a little more going on. And similarly, our lighting has a lot of different options. It can be more enhanced, or it can be very subtle under railings and along the path or along the ground. So we just thought maybe we'd throw a few of these ideas out there. Not that you need to pick one of these, but just to be thinking about what are some of those features that might be nice, that you think would be nice to have, or that might make you feel more comfortable. So maybe we just ask that question, Catherine, and
Sure.
and
And
any other elements, that you have in your head.
What'd you think about the railings? Simple, more complicated, just, are there particular things that you think the railings should enhance or not deter, or any particular leaning either any way? This is all in the eye of the beholder, so there's no
That's right.
there's no right or wrong here. You guys are agnostic on this one?
You don't have to pick anything.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
What
Hey-
about lighting? What is your feeling about lighting?
One comment in the chat from Joe that he likes the lighting. Anyone else? Hey, Beth, real quick. So if you go back to the railing, would the team come to the community with sort of 1, 2, right now there's 3, 5, 8 options here. Would, as part of the design, preliminary design, would there be maybe 3 choices and then the community would have input to determine which they like best, or would we come with one and here's the railing and the fence?
I think it'd be nice when we get a little further along, again, we don't have to choose all this right now, but it'd be kind of nice to think about the style that we like in both that Gateway Park area, some of that entry feature, and then how that aligns with these potential railing style, and then where our lighting fits in with that. And so my guess is as we go further forward, that we might have a couple packages. This theme is sort of the industrial theme, and you might do this in the Gateway Park and this on the railing and this type of lighting, like they all kind of go together. It's kind of like, designing your kitchen. You can choose this style or this package, or so I think that would be probably the next step when we get to that point. And I think Kelly would tell you that it's all dependent on the budget. So we'll have to take that into account as we get further. And some, of course, are more expensive than others. And so we may have to, that may influence our options, but.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Things to think about.
So the feedback we're getting is that lighting, the more lighting, the better. I think Rob is lighted up like it's the surface of the sun. And solar lighting, hopefully. And then and AE likes the very relaxing lighting that creates curves.
I do too. I think a lot of those lighting features across the bottom they're soft, but they're well lit, and they make that space a lot more comfortable, or could.
I think for many people that area has been so wild in terms of its vegetation, and others it's oftentimes hard to imagine what the possibilities could be, where it becomes more pedestrian. It becomes pedestrian friendly, not more. It does become pedestrian friendly, and you begin to imagine both green space and then the other amenities could really make a difference and make it a place where people can enjoy the river.
So, all right, does anybody else have anything else or other things you'd like us to think about as we move forward?
Just to be sure that we consider not only pedestrians, but also cyclists and scooter riders as we think about lighting.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kat. That's a great idea. Oh, and Kyle wants to know if Ringsey's going to become 1 lane during construction.
That's a good question. I can answer it and say maybe. It's hard to say. We're not to that point, but obviously building some major improvements on the river side of a narrow area, it's something we're going to have to look at for sure.
Thanks for all your comments in the chat. Really appreciate them, because those are ones that we'll be able to capture and bring. This was all of your comments, but it's nice to have them in the chat too. All right, so we want to go into the next slides.
Yeah, let's just move down a little bit. Okay, so this is the same area we've been looking at. Now we're standing on the other side of the river along Arkins, and we're looking back. And so this is the edge where the levee wall is going to go in, and then a pedestrian feature will be up at the top, right? So just to kind of get ourselves oriented and to kind of understand what you see right now when you look across the river, okay? And that's what you see. So I don't know who's been out there. Whoops. Wait, where did my promenade? Oh, here we got to go here first. Has anybody been out there lately? They are constructing on the Arkins Court side what's called the Promenade. And it is partially this sort of open green, trail space here. And then which kind of comes further north as you get closer to 38th. So as you move that direction, they're installing this sort of serpentine walkway that comes up and over, and it looks pretty cool. But they don't have a levee wall to contend with. So they don't have any constraints. So on our side of the fence, we have to have the wall. So, but I wanted to kind of show you, because I thought if you haven't been out there lately, you probably should. It's really coming along, and it is going to make for a very cool feature on both sides of the river that hopefully will be able to connect, and you'll be able to walk the whole thing. Okay. So to go back, if we think about what we have right now, right, on that wall, which will be a wall, we probably want to think about too, as we go, what does that wall look like? So there are options, like this, where you add some indented features, right, with vegetation, kind of softens the wall. This is a picture from the thing we talked about at our last meeting at 44th, the new connection down from 44th to the 44th Bridge down to 44th Avenue. And so that artist is showing some painted walls and some, maybe a color scheme that maybe we could agree on a color scheme that is more Globeville, and we would want to pick up on elements of that Globeville color and dynamic, both in our wall at 44th and along our wall at Ringsby. Just an idea. We can have other features, other components. This one looks a little bit more like rock. So that's those concrete form liners can make that appearance, and that might be a nice way to go. And then these, of course, are all, this is more of a steel industrial rhino look, maybe. It's up to you. This is, like Catherine said, it's all beauty's in the eye of the beholder. This one's painted. So we just thought maybe we want to just share that, the reminder that because it is a wall, that there will be this element, and you will see it when you're on the other side of the river. And so do we want to think about some of those features or things that might enhance that wall or be representative of the Globeville side of the river?
And it might be, Anthony, a good opportunity. We've talked about maybe smaller groups in between meetings, and this might be some folks who are really thinking, who really have an interest in public art, might want to be able to just gather a small group of individuals who would like to participate in thinking with the designers and Beth about what public art might look like, that whether there's a consistency or not, or color scheme or not, or material or not, that might be a little bit helpful. And if you, just as a suggestion, we might be a small group discussion where we could go through a little bit more in depth about the options. What do you all think about that? Thumbs up, thumbs down. You guys are so quiet. You're making me worried that maybe I'm talking too much. Thanks, Sayi. You want to talk? Want to say something?
Yeah, the suggested regard, oh, did you say me? Did you say?
Yeah,
me?
I did.
I think that sort of input regarding the art is really helpful to writing an RFP or a call for submissions if there's a public art fund available for this. So I think that would be great, and maybe formalize the input in the direction of the public process to really see if the art in public places can enrich that. And then just one small favor I'd like to ask, Catherine, if people put, I don't know if anybody's on just the phone, can you read the comments that you read verbatim in the comment
I
section?
certainly will do that from now on.
Okay, that'd be great.
Thanks. Great point, A. Thank you.
Thanks.
Are there others who might be interested in maybe just a smaller group discussion on the public art piece?
Well, I think that's something that would be good. You know, it might pertain to several areas in Globeville, not always just about the levy. So I think that's an interesting conversation we might want to be able to have, Catherine, or to offer. I know
So,
we're
yeah,
hoping
and
to
if-
have some smaller stakeholder groups to
Right.
do some of these, and that might be a good topic.
So if you would like to just have a little bit more discussion on art and the public art concepts that many of these projects are including, just put your name in the chat, and maybe we can get a little bit of group to meet with some of the planners and designers, Beth, to have a little bit more in-depth discussion
Yeah.
about that.
I think that'd be great. I think there's a lot of projects coming that all have some style and characteristics, and it would be nice to just get some more input.
Well, the other exciting thing is that things are coming out of the ground now, and there's opportunity to actually talk about public art as one of the considerations. So I think that's an exciting part of where we're at in the process.
Yeah, just another point I wanted to make about that is we're kind of focusing this discussion on the wall here at Ringsby, but phase 2 has a fair or significant amount of walls of varying heights that we're going to want to tie in a theme, I think, with how that all comes together. And then, like Beth said, the other adjacent projects in the area too. I think that would be important.
Yeah.
I think, again, Anthony would like to join. Angela, are you still frozen? Hope not.
I'm always frozen.
This week anyway.
So Anthony would like to be included because vivid bright art is great and would also detour graffiti. Again, let us know if you'd like to be part of that discussion. AE, is your hand up to be included in that discussion, or is that from the last conversation?
Okay. Well, maybe AE will. pop
Yeah,
out.
just let us know.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. So we are just about done. I want to get you to the end of the street. Okay. So that was our promenade. Okay. So this is all the way down at 31st. Okay. So this is Ringsby the whole way right to the north, and we just made our way all the way along. And the levee wall, Cody, feel free to jump in, but it kind of comes to its conclusion here right as it approaches 31st.
Yes.
So that we won't have any more flood wall after that.
Right. So the wall is gonna run along Ringsby, and but like Beth said, it'll terminate at some point. But in the name of connectivity and kind of completing the picture here, we will continue that path, that trail on that riverside of Ringsby all the way down here to 31st. In that image you see in the middle of the screen is kind of what that intersection looks like today. You'll notice Ringsby sort of flares out as it approaches 31st Street. It's not really a pedestrian friendly place either, like much of the space along Ringsby. And so we're looking at some different ideas here to make that a little bit more pedestrian friendly. And like I said, on the image on the right, we've got the trail coming on down here. We're looking at narrowing up Ringsby, and then as it approaches 31st Street, so it doesn't flare out quite as much. It does a couple things. It helps primarily, it helps with the pedestrian safety through the intersection. You know, shortening that crossing across Ringsby makes that a much easier street to cross. And then also we're showing a crossing on 31st as well. You guys are probably all aware, but the 31st bridge is pretty narrow as well. You know, the levee project can't really improve that, but that's definitely a consideration for the future is, you know, what can be done along that bridge. But with what we can, we're going to try to improve the intersection here within the scope of the levee project as much as we can. In addition to that, we have a little bit of space, you know, maybe wherever we land on the other end of Ringsby at Washington or 38th, you know, maybe we can incorporate some of those landscape and amenity elements into the same area as well to try to bookend this area. So
Ken had a question, Cody. Does the street side railing extend all the way from 31st to Washington? Is there any way to get on and off the sidewalk between the two?
Well, that's a good consideration. I know there's a bus stop along there right now on the east or the river side of Ringsby. I think that's something we'll need to take into account as we get further. I do know, you know, it's not really great to encourage people crossing in the middle of the street, but something we'll need to look at.
Yeah, we had just had a conversation this week about the fact that as we get into that design, you know, there will be locations, you know, not everywhere, but where you're going to want to be able to move people from the taxi side or those residential units over to the new trail, right? And so we haven't got that far in the design to determine where those crossing points should be, or if there's multiple breaks in that railing or how that works, but that's definitely a great point.
Okay, Ken got it. Thanks. All right. Beth, is that
is it, Catherine?
okay?
In terms of the levy, does anyone have any last questions about the process? It sounds like we'll be looking for some opportunities to get together to talk about some more smaller group conversations and then maybe get out there at the end of April.
Two definite outcomes from the meeting. Thank you, Beth. To have some early spring tours of both Argo Park and the Ringsby area, the pedestrian crossing there, or the pedestrian park trail there. And then also if we could talk to a smaller group about the art, that would be great. Anthony, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's not related to the levy, but it is pertinent to Washington Street, and it's been on my mind for years now. I'm a third gen Globeville resident, and the 47th Street light there, catty corner from or on 47th in Washington, trying to get out of the neighborhood simply to go to work or anything in the morning, that street backs up even past Argo, so 3 or 4 blocks. And I'd like to see something done about that. And the simplest thing to do is simply to change the signage to where one lane is left and straight and one lane is simply dedicated to those going right. Because the majority of those cars, you know, the cars coming out of the neighborhood turn right onto Washington, and it literally backs up, you know, 3-4 cycles to where, you know, 20-30 minutes, honestly, it'll take that long, you know, on some mornings to just get out of the neighborhood. And work hours are taken. It's just been an issue. And I was hoping that this would be the place to address that.
That's a really great comment, Anthony. This tonight, we're obviously not talking about Washington per se. We were talking about the levy, but But this same group is the group that will bring you Washington Street final design work as well. And that's definitely something that I can pass on to the team. And, you know, and that project is kicking off and has received additional funding. So there will be a lot of work coming on Washington in the near future.
Terrific. Yeah, thank you very much for getting that addressed. Yeah, it's ongoing. It's every day. You know, one car can screw up the whole line. You know, one car's going straight and everyone else wants to go right. You know, and it goes through the cycle. It takes a few minutes and then it backs up even more. But yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll
Anthony, we'll be
definitely
sure
bring it.
to highlight when that conversation is coming up so we can get
Thanks a
your
lot.
input.
Thank you.
And Joe Z wants to know if there's any update on 4601 Washington Street project.
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know, Karen, if you have any update on that, but I don't believe there's any new updates or changes from the last conversations that were had related to that parcel or that property.
No, Anthony, great question. I did actually just ask about that earlier this week, and we don't have any updates, but thank you for asking. Things in the property world often have more information. We'll certainly use this forum to share it, but at the moment we do not.
Thank you.
It's been on my mind as well. So thanks for asking.
Thanks, Joe. We'll be sure to get you that information as soon as we get it. AE's question is, statement is ditto to what Anthony Y is bringing up. A right turn lane onto Washington heading east on 47th should be in existing planning documents from prior neighborhood planning meetings. Very important concern. So,
And Catherine, can I add really quickly
Sure.
to that? One thing that folks might want to do for something that's maybe a little bit more immediate is to put in a PocketGov or 311 request to look into the whether that could be something that could be changed prior to the reconstruction project.
a little organizing here. Getting those comments into 311 and
Yeah.
PocketGov do really make a difference. So
Absolutely. And they can really be helpful for our team working on Washington, because we can look at, what the situation is now, whether it's something that we could, whether it meets the requirements currently. And then if it doesn't, then our Washington team can look into doing what they can do in the longer term. And it's all well and good that it's in a planning document, but we need the request now. My guess is, and I haven't looked into this in detail recently, is that it did not meet the requirements at the time of the neighborhood plan. So that's when you want to wait a couple of years and say, okay, does it now? So that would be a good thing to ask. And I hope that's helpful.
a little frustration. Angela's expressing any updates to sidewalks in Globeville. 311 takes forever. I put it to get all 4 beg buttons on 48th.
The 44th and Penn ones, Angela?
45th in Washington. 45th in Washington.
Oh, I just saw, Angela, I saw the ones I thought it was 44th and Penn.
Yeah, somebody put 44th and Penn. It's actually
Yeah.
45th in Washington, and that's what I told the person who put that in. It's 40 because we don't have anything on 44th. Yeah, it's 45th in Washington. All 4 beg buttons do not work to cross the street.
Okay, I remember there was a problem with that years ago, and we got them to fix it. So they're going to have an awfully hard time because I know the 311 was put in for, as you said, that's why I was thinking 44th and Penn. Do you have the ability to put that in? Do you want me to put that in if you cannot?
If you would, I think that would work better, because I did speak to somebody and space still. I don't think
council-
it got, yeah.
The
Councilman
council
Hines.
office put it in.
Yeah.
And I believe there was a misunderstanding as to where it was. I actually, if there's any way you could put it in, the reason I asked that is that then you will get any clarifying questions about it and they will let you know when it's done. I put one in my neighborhood, just across the tracks, in Sunnyside. And it did take a couple weeks, but it was addressed and it was really gratifying, I have to say, to get the notification that the crew had been able to get out there and fix it. So why don't we chat offline and figure out if I can walk you through or put it in for you with your info.
No, I'll just go
And-
ahead and do it tomorrow. Thank you.
Are you sure?
And
Yeah, I just
Angela,
want-
this is,
Okay.
I just want
this is
people to
Jessica.
know
We
that
can-
this does not work. These buttons do not work, and it's elders, it's children
Yeah.
crossing the street to go to the McDonald's. And it's dangerous. And there's somebody already got hit back in January, and I've been asking for this since then, but I'll put in another one. Sure, why the hell not?
Well, I don't think it went in quite correctly. And so that might be the problem. And if when you get your confirmation, you can send it to me, I can help prioritize it, but it needs to get into the system.
Jessica, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because I had talked to Liz in our office about this, and I can follow up with her too, because I know that our office are also put in the
Yeah.
request on that. So I'll follow up and just see if there's something else we can do also, Angela.
Awesome. And Jessica, I feel like it might have gone in as the wrong address, so we can chat offline, but I
Okay,
think that might be the problem.
All right, sounds good.
And thanks all for asking and for bearing with us.
Can you see my hand? It's been up a bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was left over from the last, thanks.
No,
AE.
and I think the moderator or somebody can, from that side, can put the hands down too if people are spacey like me, but I will put it down.
I apologize.
I just want to say in response to the Pocket Gov and 311, I appreciate that people using that. I want to add one concern about the safety on East 47th and Washington that's been on the docket for many years as well, with the issue that Anthony Ellie brought up, which is, and I'm worn out myself personally, having called 311 Pocket, many times. But if somebody else wants to try and bring this up again, there is a very dangerous, when you have cars, vehicles going north and south on Washington at that intersection and big trucks come up. I've seen many close calls with people with strollers, with a car that's whose vision is blocked because they pull up in the lane next to a large truck. And I appreciate that there's timing on these things, but there was a pretty important study done here a while ago of the most dangerous intersections in the city. And I think there is some political will and some general desire to address some of these things more quickly. I think that's a signage and what's that called? The painting, striping, if we could, that kind of, but if anybody wants to add that to their 311 or Pocket Gov, I hope you know what I'm describing, but it's a very dangerous.
AE?
We've had a lot of close calls.
Can I ask for a clarification? Are you saying that the stop bar signing is not placed correctly, or
I'm
should
not
be?
sure of the term stop bar, but let me
So
just.
that's the line that cars are supposed to
Okay.
stop at the
Yeah,
signal.
no, it's like this. If you have for example, a big truck headed south on Washington, stops at a red light, and a little car pulls up to its right, headed south also, and doesn't see a stroller passing in front of, or any pedestrian in front of the truck, and pulls out just as the light changes. Trucks sometimes start slower. I think if there was a pedestrian figure or a wheelchair figure painted on the asphalt, in addition to the stop bar, something to alert people to pay attention about what's coming in front of them that's currently in front of the vehicle to their left or right, because you're blinded by a larger vehicle and you don't see the pedestrian, and they may be caught. I've seen slow moving folks be caught in that intersection consistently, and cars start up and almost hit them and stop because they couldn't see them crossing in front of the vehicle it's hard to describe. I can do a diagram. Does anybody get that, or do you get what I'm saying?
No, I get it.
I concur, absolutely.
I think if there's, what my experience is that an alert painted flat on the asphalt, an additional alert, whatever the graphic would be, the universal wheelchair symbol or something, so that people are reminded that's pedestrian, because it feels very industrial there. It doesn't feel residential at that particular corner until that gets fixed. And so people have a tendency to space out and not think of people. They just think of getting through there. So anyway, just anybody who can activate these systems. I honestly have tried, and it's not anything. I recognize the timing, but I really think that's a signage and a striping thing. It doesn't need to wait for major upgrades. And I realize that's on Washington. And anyway, I'll leave it at that. And I'm putting my hand down now.
Thank you, Amy. So Anthony is congratulating Angela for a good call. So many kids, elderly and handicapped across there, and God knows how crazy some people drive through there. And Jessica is Joe, can you, if you can't see Jessica's message to you, can you email her at jessica.zender@denvergov.org, and she'll talk with you about 4601. All right. Great comments, good input. Thank you very much, everyone. Anthony, can I turn it back to you?
You sure can. I just did want to also for those that may not know, Jessica is with Councilwoman Sedabaka's office. Jessica, did you have any sort of announcements or updates that you wanted to share? Just thank you for being here tonight.
Yeah, I don't have anything. I am always just here to listen and see how the Councilwoman's office can be helpful to all of you. So please reach out if you have any questions or anything that we can do to be helpful.
Terrific. Thank you so much. And a couple of announcements, and I will email these to you as well. There's going to be an open house for the Swansea Recreation Center indoor pool on Thursday, March the 3rd from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Swansea Rec Center. And again, I will make sure to email this information quickly, because their community open house is next Thursday, March the 3rd from 4 to 7 p.m. Anyone can drop in during those 3 hours, free food and refreshments. And then additionally, I heard from Erica Martinez with the Denver Public Library. They are going to be hosting an open house on March the 15th at the Holy Transfiguration of Christ Church. They haven't got the flyer together just yet, but as soon as they do, I will make sure to send you that information as well. But that is it's a community meeting to discuss ideas for a Globeville library. So I will make sure to send both of those announcements to you in the coming days. And then just a reminder that our next meeting will be on Thursday, February 24th. There are 5 Thursdays in March, but we will be meeting the 4th Thursday, which is our normal time. So look for additional information for our next meeting on March the 24th. And then by then, hopefully we will have solidified plans for a walking tour and a community open house, more than likely in May. And that's all I have, Catherine.
Okay. Let's see. And Anthony's saying if you have a flyer for those events, he'd be glad to, if you email him, he'll put them out on the Globeville Facebook page.
Absolutely. I have the one for Swansea Rec Center. I'll email that tomorrow to everyone. And then the March 15th Globeville Library community meeting, they just solidified the date and location today. The flyer is forthcoming.
And the same time, meeting at 6 o'clock for our next meeting. Is that correct, Anthony?
Correct.
Okay, and Rob says also work when there is snow covering the road.
Sorry, that was a continuation of my previous chat message. It was about that intersection there.
I didn't understand it, but I was willing to read it, Rob. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I might suggest that most likely traffic engineers will not allow non-standard symbols to be painted, but you might have luck asking for a yield for pedestrian light boxes to be installed on light poles and also work when there is snow covering the road. There, that makes
Agreed.
sense. Great.
Agree with you, Rob.
Okay. Anything else? Well, staying warm is a challenge these days, but I do hope that you do, and I will see you at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Good night. Thank you.
Did,
Okay.
An-
guys,
did Anthony leave? I guess
I
Anthony
think
left.
so. Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Nice job, Catherine.
Well, everybody did a nice job. I think shorter agendas make it easier, and I think we'll build more comments. I think that's,
Yeah, we had some good.
yeah.
And Beth, I texted you a couple different things, so
I'm
just,
sorry.
no, they weren't urgent. They're just FYI, they're there.
Great.
In particular related to the art and pulling in arts and venues on those conversations. We've just to make sure we're staying in line with everything.
It might be interesting to invite a couple of people